What's up guys, Vulkan here, and today I have another WOLCEN video for you. Now this one is all about the new chronicle called Blood Trail. Now a chronicle, for those of you who don't know, this is what WOLCEN calls a season or a league. So these are going to provide a story, some new mechanics, and a slew of other improvements to the game. Now I've spent a couple days with Blood Trail so far, and we're going to talk about my first impressions and whether or not you should give it a try. So this chronicle added a few new things, and it brought a complete overhaul of the combat side of the game. Now the first major thing, this has been heavily advertised, this is a new system called hunts, and these hunts remind me a lot of Monster Hunter, kind of a watered down version of Monster Hunter. So at the beginning of a map, you're going to find a pile of dead bodies. This starts the hunt, and it shows a scent trail for you to follow. And as you go through and kind of follow this trail, you're going to find more and more dead bodies, more carnage, and be able to choose different modifiers that affect the hunt boss or improve your loot. Or you could come upon a hunting party, and if you defeat that party, then you'll get something, whether it's a bonus, whether it's some loot, something will be given to you. And once you get to the end of the hunt, you fight the boss and you collect the loot, and some of it will have new tributary affixes, which we'll talk about here in a second. So overall, these hunts, they're pretty fun. I mean, they're just something a little extra to make end game and early game maps more engaging, give you another chance at some good loot, and really kind of break up the monotony a little bit. But the main problem that I have is that they're virtually non-existent when you're replaying the campaign, which you have to do. So with each chronicle, you have to create a brand new character and replay the story, just like in a Path of Exile League. So in Blood Trail, you're going to find a new NPC named Ilthane, the Dragon Tamer, and he takes you on your first hunt. And this is pretty early in the game, and you go through the first hunt, and then after that you don't really see that many hunts afterwards. I think I probably saw 7 through my entire campaign experience, which, you know, it was to a point where I just wondered if I was missing them because they were so spread out. But then you hit endgame and the chronicle blows wide open. You have new story missions, you have new currency, you have a new vendor for special cosmetic gear, you have a hunt every single expedition, and it just feels like all of the content is backloaded and locked behind endgame. So the game kind of forces you to play through story again, then you get to endgame and everything's like, oh hey, here's all of the content that we were advertising, here's these new story missions, here's this new kind of narrative that you have to follow along through, here's some new environments that you get to play in, some new maps. So all of this stuff is tucked away, and I really would have liked to see them either bring some of that into the campaign or at least have hunts have a larger presence during the story to help get players more acquainted with the system and make replaying the story feel at least a little bit different. So I mentioned tributary affixes. Now, tributary affixes, these are new stats that you're going to see on gear that provide a more powerful stat than a typical roll, but it comes with a negative effect as well. So for instance, you can have a stat like this that increases all your attack damage by 20%, but we lose 12 ailment chance score. So if you're running a build that doesn't depend on a lot of ailments, then you're probably good. But if you do, then this is something you might want to skip because it's going to pull away from a primary stat that you need. Now overall, all of the ones that have dropped from me have been pretty lukewarm. I haven't seen anything that really kind of piqued my interest, but I have seen some other players on the WOLCEN Discord that got some awesome rolls that really pushed their build to another level, which was really cool to see. And overall, I think they're a nice addition, but it's too early to tell if they're going to make a giant impact on builds quite yet. Right now, I think they're just something that if you get it, apply it, it's going to make your build better, but not something like I have to have this tributary affix to make this build work. So once you complete your hunts and you gather your loot, you're going to get a new currency that has like this little dragon icon. And these can be used at the end game vendor named Havar. And Havar sells all kinds of loot. And all of these new pieces of loot have the new tributary affixes. So that's another outlet for picking up specialized gear. And as you go through and complete other expeditions and things like that, you can have him re-roll his loot, have better loot. So there's some kind of progression there you can do. And honestly, that's everything new with hunts. They're a nice system. I wouldn't say it's a massive new addition, but it is a nice thing that the league focuses on. But it does add a little variety to your end game as well and gives you a new thing that you can build up in your end game city building. Now, outside of hunts, there were a few new things that got added. first are pets. So you can now adopt a pet dog and unlock more pets as you work through the story and in-game. Now, your first dog, it's part of the campaign. So you have to click on them, you have to adopt them, you have to use them. So it's not like something kind of off to the side that you can miss and then have to go back and get it again. So don't worry about that. Just playing through the game is going to naturally get you that. Now, these little guys don't do anything other than pick up items that you manually ask them to, which is kind of a bummer. I was really hoping that they would go pick up stuff for you, and hopefully we can see them add in like a Torchlight 2 style system where they pick up items, gold, maybe even sell things. I really just want to see a little more engagement, because right now you either alt click on something and they'll run over and pick it up for you, which doesn't really provide that much value. And they provide you with an indicator of where your hunt scent trail is. So let's say you're out exploring the map and you need to get back to that scent trail so you can follow it. There's an arrow that comes off of your pet that shows, okay, it's to the south. So we need to head down to the south to find that scent trail again. So there is some cool stuff here, but honestly, I'd like to see them do more with pets. So second, there are some big changes to skills and modifiers you can select. You can now choose what damage type you want your skill to dish out instead of being stuck to one or two that are tied to certain mods. So for instance, you can take your anomaly skill, the AoE that pulls in enemies and deals damage. It looks like a black hole. Everyone loves this skill. You can either leave it as Aether, or you can change it to Lightning, to Toxic, or Frost, and you're going to deal different types of damage and apply different ailments. And this has been a huge game changer for builds, because if you want to focus a lot on fire damage, you can do that with your skills now. Then you can take different nodes in Child of Fury or Oracle of Trinity, and it helps create more build flexibility. So it's a good change. It's been something that's been impactful for me. Or if you want to be somebody who kind of spreads everything across all the different ailments to stack up things in Immortal Offering, which they changed, by the way, to be a little less impactful, which is good. But overall, you can have a rainbow of different ailments and different damage types that you can apply very easily. Now, third are new cosmetic armor sets, and these can be unlocked extremely early in endgame, and they look so badass. Very, very, very Warhammer-esque. We're talking skulls, we're talking just big kind of armor-clad individuals, so they look awesome. Make sure to unlock the Mermaid ship before the Chronicle ends, and like I said, very, very cheap, very easy to unlock once you hit endgame. Now, fourth, they added a new skill. So we have a brand new skill called Talon Shot, and it's usable with daggers, bows, and guns. And this skill launches a slow-moving projectile that pierces enemies and then explodes at the end of its path. You can detonate it early if you want by pressing the A button. Now, this skill, super underwhelming. I built around this skill until level 25. It felt clunky to use, didn't really feel that powerful for the amount of work that I had to put in. I had to time detonations while trying to position my character. And I feel like it could be something better if you unlock a lot of the modifiers, but in early game, I would not count on it as a primary skill. It just does not have that same level of oomph as other skills have. And lastly, they added 5 new uniques, loot filters, basic loot filters, and 14 new enemies to fight, and improved their crafting UI so you can easily see what your crafts are going to get you. So that wraps up a lot of the new content that comes with the Chronicle. But honestly, the biggest thing that has people enjoying the game again comes in a few parts. So number one, all of the skill tree nodes are working as far as I can tell, which is great, great news. Then they overhauled the backend system to compute math correctly. So we aren't experiencing as many issues with damage numbers, and this also led to an overall numbers squish. So your damage and health numbers on both players and bosses are going to be much lower than they were at release. Number 3, attributes are no longer your primary source of damage. They help, but most of your output comes from gear, so you no longer need to dump all of your points into ferocity or toughness to maximize your damage output. Now you can spread those out a little more evenly for what you want to use in your build. Number 4, spells are now viable beyond level 90 because now they scale off of weapon damage and not skill level. So this is a solid change. I've seen some great improvements here. You equip a staff that has a higher weapon damage than another staff or dual wielding, and you're going to see your damage go up rather than it be tied directly to your skill damage. So that's a great change, and honestly, all of these have been really noticeable through my gameplay. I've been able to actually build around skills in major nodes and be confident that they work when I use them. So if you quit because nodes weren't working, it might be a good idea to give the game another shot. So from what I've played so far, Blood Trail has been an interesting experience. I feel like its content size is more substantial than a Diablo 3 season, but less than a Path of Exile League. On one hand, you're going to be playing the exact same story with only a few minor differences on a new character. But on the other hand, you have an end game where all of the new stuff lives and it breathes a little bit of life back into the game and allows you to do some brand new things, go through a new story, play through some new environments, have new narratives. So there's a lot of new stuff. And unfortunately, it's locked into endgame. So my recommendation, guys, just blast through the story. Honestly, get to endgame as quickly as you can. You need to experience the new stuff before you get burnt out. And I really wish they would have allowed players to either level through Champion of Stormfall mode, expeditions, or something like an adventure mode in Diablo 3 rather than replaying the story again. Hopefully we'll see that next time, because I don't think a lot of people are going to want to do that. And unfortunately, we are seeing some bugs and glitches in the game, both old and new. Some players are still seeing the final boss of Chapter 3 disappear, so they can't finish the fight, while others are seeing new bugs tied to hunts. Now, the good news here is that WOLCEN has been a little bit faster at getting those fixed. They did have a day 2 patch that went through and fixed quite a few things, but this needs to be consistent. They cannot afford to fall into the same weekly patch cycle that we saw at release. Otherwise, this game is doomed to repeat history, and it's going to be even further into the grave. So, WOLCEN dev team, please stay on top of these things. Burn the midnight oil if you want this game to be successful. You need to make some sacrifices, get some things out there, get some stuff fixed, and be able to move quickly. So overall, I know a lot of people are asking, is this Chronicle going to save WOLCEN? Is this going to be the great uprising, the relaunch, the 2.0 of WOLCEN? And honestly, I'm not sure. It is a good step in the right direction, but you have titles like Last Epoch releasing new classes. You have huge AAA launches like Cyberpunk. So this time around, we might see a short kind of surge in players for the week and then dip down again. Hopefully Chronicle 2 will have a lot more stuff that comes with it, and it's a little bit more impactful earlier in the game rather than tucked into endgame. I think the endgame stuff is fine. I think it's a good addition. It kind of fits that overall season or league feel. But the early game is where a lot of people are going to get stuck, and a lot of people are going to burn out, and they're not even going to get to experience the new stuff because there weren't enough changes in the early game to help get them there. So for those who have played it, what are your thoughts? Is this something that you enjoy? Do you think they're making a step in the right direction? Do you think it's just not great and you're gonna uninstall it and hang it back up again? I want to hear from everybody, but as always, thank you guys so much for watching. This has been Vulkan, and I'll talk to you guys next time.